Hello everybody, welcome to my new series called Games Compared. Today we will be comparing the UK train games on Roblox. I will be assessing the games on these criteria: the quality of models, the game idea, the user interface, the scenery, and the physics. I will also include quantity, but this will not be counted towards the final total. I will be starting off with SCR. Stepford County Railway is seen as the largest game in this community. It features a wide variety of routes and trains and features a train operation-like simulation with features such as signalling and dispatching. First off, I will talk about the quality of models. This is one of the main things that SCR is criticised on. This has had its fair share of mishaps with trains such as the Class 43 and Class 331. These trains are very rushed, and the shape and resolution of the decals on these trains are very low compared to the rest of the fleet, considering both these trains, especially in the Class 43's case, are quite new to the game. The Class 331 will soon be replaced with a much improved version of this, which will have a next generation interior. A large quantity of the train models on this game are sourced from Mind the Gap, a game I will also be reviewing in this video. Due to the nature of this, SAR has been seen as having stolen models from the game, but this isn't true, as the owner of Mind the Gap is now actually ranked as a product developer for SAR and has actually done work on the map as well. Just to add on to that actually, there was a point in SCR's history where these models were classified as stolen as the original development team fell apart and the owners of the train models requested that they would be removed. But this didn't happen due to the fact that SCR didn't have any of their own models at the time, so the game would have fallen into the void if they were in fact removed. I have decided to rank SCR's model quality as 6 out of 10. Due to most of the models simply being hollowed out paper models with low resolution liveries and blocky interiors, and the instance of such rushed trains dragging it down. SCR has 29 trains in service at the time of publishing this video, 14 trains being on Stepford Connect, 2 on Stepford Express, 7 on Waterline and 6 on Airlink. This means there is a large choice of trains to choose from, which is only limited by the prices of those trains. I'll be giving SCR a 9 out of 10 for quality, but like I said, this will not count towards the final score. In my opinion, the game idea for Stepford County Railway is quite flawed. It seems to focus on being arcade-like with low resolution decals spammed throughout the map, yet tries to simulate a semi-realistic train operation with roles you need to be trained for and in some cases apply for. This just doesn't seem to work in my head and makes me ponder over this weird combination of arcade style visuals and semi-realistic operation of trains. This is why I'm only going to give the game a 6 out of 10 rating in this area, as I explained. The two worlds just don't mix in my head. Moving on, the user interface in SCR is where it gains points over the other games. It is well designed and sleek to the eye. You can easily customise settings including the menu music, render distance, the volume of different audio in the game, and more. It is really easy to use, and I think other games should really look at this aspect of SCR as a way to improve. I'll be giving SCR a 9 out of 10 for the UI, as there are some places, like the driving UI, which still need improvement as they just look a bit bland. Now onto the scenery. This is another area where SCR loses points on. The repeated use of one decal for nearly every building that isn't a station in the vast patch of maps seemingly void of any decent scenery really drags my opinion down on this. The new portion of the map recently released increased my opinion on the scenery in SCR, despite having a few patchy bits as the absolute blurry mess that's the Limby station roof. It was of good quality compared to the rest of the game. The stations in SCR are the main part where SCR gains points in this category. As compared to the rest of the map, most of them are really well done. This scores SCR a 6 out of 10 for its scenery. Time for the final section for rating this game: physics. The physics is something that drags the game down once again. The acceleration and deceleration on the trains is way too fast. Not to mention the fact that the throttle is literally just an overglorified speed limiter, which really doesn't fit the definition of throttle, unless you mean to infer that it is throttling the rating. I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. Overall, SCR is a well-known game with a repairing reputation. It doesn't seem to stand for much quality in the train and scenery departments, and it certainly has a history that the management is trying to hide from newer players, which I might discuss in a later video. It does have a variety of trains and a polished UI, but these are the only parts of the game I really do commend. This might seem quite harsh, but due to the other games on this list, it isn't really, and it is my personal opinion at the end of the day, and you, dear viewer, are allowed to have your own in return. Now on to Mind the Gap. MTG is an arcade-style game in which you can either drive a bus or drive a train. The game has a multitude of routes and is a great trip into the nostalgia zone of the community. The development for this game is starting to restart again after being cut off due to a Roblox physics update breaking the old chassis which used to be used for the trains in the game. Starting off again with the quality of the models, MTG as a game is designed to be completely arcade style. The colour schemes give that away. The models are on par with the game idea, and the pixelated decals that cover the trains really emphasise it. While I won't give it a great weighting for quality over the whole aspect of realism, I do really appreciate having a game which gives that nostalgic Roblox vibe that new games can't have. I'm only going to give MTG a 6 out of 10 for quality, which is the same as SCR. It would be 4 out of 10, but the models go with the game, and I like that, and that acts, in my mind, as its own form of quality. MTG has 40 trains, including different liveries, currently in operation, 21 of which being express, 10 deep level tube trains, a commuter class 142, 6 subsurface tube trains, a regional class 360 and a class 47 for freight. There are more trains that have been created, but these are currently confined to storage until they are fitted with the new chassis and had some tweaks done to them. This quantity of trains scores MTG a 10 out of 10 for the ultimate variety of trains. The game idea for Mind the Gap is a really solid one. It is the perfect nostalgia zone, and the dev team has obviously worked hard to give it a good arcades feel. There are a few Easter eggs that you may find around the map which kind of links it to old arcade games, where there'd be hidden Easter eggs you'd accidentally come across within the game. I'll be giving the game idea a 9 out of 10 as it just works, but might not end up being the most active game in the world. The UI for Mind the Gap is the only modern-like part of the game. It is a simplistic design with colours that match the game's colour palette. It is quite easy to navigate, but the driving UI sort of block the viewing experience when you're actually driving. It contrasts to the game, which sort of gives it a weird vibe as it doesn't fit, but weirdly works. This is why it scores an 8 out of 10. Mind the Gap's scenery is both great and bland. The city area is well decorated, and for once, decal spam actually fits in a game. But as you move out of the main city area, the scenery just falls apart and the land is typically bare with the odd hotspot of scenery. This blandness on the scenery front really lets down the rating to Mind the Gap, which scores it a measly 5 out of 10. MTG's physics is comparable to SCR, but there are differences. The pros are that the acceleration and deceleration actually feel more like the real thing, which really boosts my opinion on it. But the cons are that the trains often collide and you can override someone else's track, which means there can be a lot of issues when reaching a major terminus. This just seems to even out on the same score as I gave SCR, a 6 out of 10. At the end of the day, MTG is a great community-based game which people treasure and hold close to their hearts. People love its pixelated feel and how it's off-standard, and I believe no other game can take that away from it. This is a game so embedded people might not be so happy if, in this day and age, someone tried to copy the idea and replicate it. It would probably just be seen as a lame cash grab. I personally love the game and would like it to stay alive for as long as possible. It just works with the Roblox vibe and keeps that good old nostalgic place in our hearts alive for the players of the future to enjoy the older times of the community. Snow Hill Lines is a game run by the group Cento Travel and is based off a set of routes across the West Midlands. The game is pretty new, only being released on the 25th of November 2019 after around 6 months of development, most of which being intermittent, and is currently in beta for everybody to play with a few testers in the background looking for bugs and upcoming features. One of the most anticipated features in the game was the custom contest editor, which allowed for the ability to build whatever train you want. The game has some well done stations and trains. A main thing to consider that the majority of the game was made by a single developer, HH Wheat, which shows how much one person can accomplish. To start off, Snow Hill Line's trains are much more detailed and precise compared to those found in MTG and SCR. Most trains only feature cabs, but full interiors are slowly being rolled out on the game's trains. Some of the models have small inaccuracies, such as the Voider's front portion being slightly brick shifted, but they are overall well polished on the exterior. I'll be rating SHL an 8 out of 10 for quality, as there are some great models, but they currently lack interiors and some more detailing and care could be considered for the models. Going on to the quantity of trains, Snow Hill Lines offers a wide variety of choice with the contest editor, while also having 10 multiple units which have their own contests as well to go along with that. Due to how the game has a contest editor, I will giving an 8 out of 10 for quantity due to the overwhelming amount of choice that the contest editor brings to the player. Snow Hill Lines' game idea is another great one. It is based off a set of lines which are spread across the West Midlands. It is quite realistic, with the train models being mostly accurate and the allowance for community train submissions into the game, although these models must be up to standard. The whole idea of a contest editor greatly increases the possibilities within the game, and I think it's one of the things that keeps people on it. This game idea scores it a 9 out of 10. The UI for Snow Hill Lines isn't the nicest to look at. It's quite messy and is in need of an update. There is an upgrade in development for it, which is due to come out on the 8th of February, but I think I will only rank the UI based on the current one on the game at the time of publishing this video. The UI drags Snow Hill Lines behind a bit compared to the rest of the games, and I'll be rating it 7 out of 10, as it is alright to use, but there is a much better version currently in development. The scenery on Snow Hill Lines is absolutely amazing compared to the other games. There is a range of decals where they are used, and a wide variety of different buildings, signals and trees. The only bit I'll mark Snow Hill Lines down on scenery is the odd small gap in the map and some low quality buildings around Moore Street. This scores Snow Hill Lines a 9 out of 10 for scenery. Finally, I'll talk about the physics in the game. The game features a realistic acceleration and deceleration train control and real life top speeds for the trains. This is far superior to the likes of MTG and SCR, but the chassis does have some issues with jolting about, which is currently being looked into by the development team. I'll give the physics an 8 out of 10 as it is quite realistic but features some bugs. In conclusion, Snow Hill Lines is one of the better train games in the variety you can find on Roblox. It has pretty good scenery, well done trains, a really nice contest editor, and a small amount of well done routes. It's a pretty new game and in beta, but I think it'll be one amazing game when it comes out of beta. The game sets an example for scenery in Roblox train games and sets a good standard for the quality of models games should have. Grand Continental Railways is a well-established game in Roblox. The game has been running since 2016 and has recently had one of its biggest updates yet, bringing a new map, much better modelling and good looking GUIs that keep to its classic colour palette. This update was greatly anticipated, especially after it was released to the public for under a day months earlier than it should have been released. The game is currently in beta, which sort of addresses some of the issues such as a lack of signalling and scenery. The train models in GCR are some of the best you can find for a UK train game. The trains are really well done and all the passenger ones features interiors. There's nothing much else to say about the models other than that they could possibly do with an actual cab, and the Class 142 could do a bit of curving at the front. Due to how good the models are, I'll be rating GCR's trains a 9 out of 10. Grand Continental Railways currently has a small choice to choose from train-wise, which will obviously grow as the game gets more features and models to be added. There is currently 2 mainline trains, 2 freight trains, 2 special trains, and a Class 52 for charter. There are currently 2 trains planned to be added to the game, which are the Class 150 and the short set HST. These will both be for the GCR mainline. Due to how little choice the game currently has for trains, I'll be rating it a 5 out of 10 for quantity. Moving on to the game idea, GCR is mostly a realistic train game with jobs you can join, which are mainly just for roleplay and screenshots right now. The game features a made up map in which you can also drive buses, although these aren't best quality. They do work, and there is a plan to replace them with better models. The idea scores the game a 9 out of 10 as it entices people toward a game which focuses on quality, for the trains at least. GCR's UI looks really nice and has unique colours and really works with the game. The only issues I have with it is when you're on the vehicle selection screen, it just seems a bit crowded and a bit much if there's just one contest and one depot at the moment. As this is the only bit I don't overly like about how this UI works, I'll give it a 9 out of 10. The scenery, where it is actually present, is absolutely amazing in GCR. The stations are really well polished and the buildings work really well and look pretty good, but there isn't much of the scenery in the map, and for the most part it is very bland and in much need of scenery. This game was certainly dragged into release on this part, and it's the main thing I think the development team needs to work on. I will be giving it a 7 out of 10 for this category, as despite the fact there is some amazing scenery, there isn't really enough of it, and the map looks really dull in most places outside of station areas. GCR's physics are probably some of the most polished in the community. The acceleration and deceleration is really well done, and the sounds really do complement that. The trains easily glide around corners and it isn't bumpy at all, which creates a great experience in or out the cab. The only bad parts of the physics that are currently in GCR is that the bogies don't rotate and the trains collide because there are no signals and they can block lines. This is probably due to the fact that the collision groups aren't set up. This is just me nitpicking through, and I'll be giving GCR a 9 out of 10 for physics. In the end, GCR is a great example of how you should do physics for trains. It's certainly one of the amazing examples of how train models should be on the platform. The fact that it is currently in beta shows there is so much more to come to this game, and I'm excited for the future as most of it is polished, but the major thing is simply the lack of scenery in the map. I also believe that GCR is certainly an example of quality over quantity in the case of its trains, and I do look forward to how future trains turn out. In the end, all these games have their strong points. SCR with its UI, MTG with its variety of trains, Snow Hill Lines with its scenery, and GCR with its train models. But in the end, these are the scores I gave these games. Coming in first is GCR with a total of 43 points out of 50. Coming in second is Snow Hill Lines coming up the rear with 41 points. Third is MTG with 34 points, closely followed by SCR in last place with 33 points. This video took ages to create, so it'd be really nice if you could like and subscribe for this one. Thanks for watching.
Castles and dragons, the battle begins tonight.